Okay, good evening again. My name's Kurt Gibson with the Illinois High School Association, and I'd like to welcome anyone who has the ability to join us over the next 45 minutes to talk basketball. I know it's a Monday night during the holidays. Some people might be working, others may have other holiday tasks to attend to, so we appreciate the time everyone is providing us this evening. I would just remind all our attendees we have a chat area which you can access um, by selecting the chat button along the left-hand side of your device. And then there's a field down at the bottom for you to enter a question if you don't want to speak. But I do see we've got a couple of folks online now, so I would just say to anyone, I'm here. So if you have questions and want to ask them, whether through the chat feature or verbally, go ahead and send them my way. I'm just going to continue doing some work over here to my side, and once we get a question, I'll be happy to come back and answer away.
It's Clarence Rack. Hi, Kurt.
Hi, Clarence. How can I help you tonight?
Just checking in for the first time, trying out this new technology.
Okay.
I use it at work all the time, but I'd connect with you. Is anybody else on?
Yeah, we have another individual who's on right now. He's muted, which is fine too. Just for my knowledge here, Clarence, was accessing this platform was it difficult? Was it fairly easy? My experiences are it's pretty easy to navigate and use, but I know that everybody comes to the table with different skills in that regard.
Right. It was pretty straightforward after installing the app. It all went fine.
Okay. Are you on a computer, tablet, phone?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay.
And I've used Skype and GoToMeeting and some others work, so I'm somewhat comfortable with it.
Okay. Yeah. This feels a little bit like GoToMeeting for me as well. How are things going so far in the season for you? Anything that you've stumbled across that's given you any kind of difficulty or challenges?
Season's going well. The only surprising thing is that I've had 3 instances where the lineups weren't in at the table correctly. Either a player was missing or a number was missing. And that normally never happens. Should never happen. So that was the only unusual thing this year.
And so these have shown up after the game started, you mean?
Yes, in the process of the game.
Okay.
One instance.
Yeah, I'd agree. It shouldn't happen.
Right. One instance was a roster from the assistant coach was given to the scorekeeper.
Okay.
The book was checked before the game. I wasn't the referee on the game. I was U1 or U2. But during the course of the game, then that player came in the game and found out he wasn't on this in the book. It's unfortunate when that happens.
Yeah.
No one wants to see that.
No, you don't. Yeah, I haven't heard much about that kind of thing this year. So I'm sure it happens occasionally. But like you said, this early in the season to have it happen 3 times to you, that would be a little outside the normal pattern of things, I guess.
Right. So I've gone to the policy myself of taking a book and checking with the coaches one last time, let them double check. That way the onus is on them and there's hopefully no possibility of a problem.
All right. I guess I'll throw out to you or anybody who, else is on. Have any of the new changes for this year proven difficult thus far? I mean, I'm thinking about things like the expanded coaching box, the coach's warning. I'm trying to think what else we've got that's new this year. I'm looking here for my notes and I don't have them close at hand, but I do have a rule book right here. It's all about being able to access information, right? Oh, yeah, the use of two hands in reporting fouls. Any problems with anything of those natures or that nature?
For me, no. I had one
No.
coach's box warning. That was it.
Okay.
Kurt,
So I
David
see we
Ford.
just do. Yeah. Hi, David.
Hi, just to address that question, seamless start to the year, no issues with any of those things.
Okay.
The thing that our crew has seen the most often is players not wearing the uniform as intended by the manufacturer. They either want to roll down there or roll up or roll in, and whatever the case may be, their pants, and getting that
Mm-hmm.
corrected.
Okay. Yeah, we've heard a little bit about that. I don't know what. If you have any suggestions on what more we can do, the messages we put out are the same messages officials see. In our view,
Right.
as a result, we've told coaches what our expectation is. I get that they're probably not doing what we think is their job when it comes to seeing what their players are doing with those.
Yes, I think that they probably get the information to the kids, and then may just not follow up with that pregame. We address it in our pregame meeting with the coaches that the uniforms need to be worn as intended, um, and they work with us on that, and
Okay.
that they tell their kids before the game. As what we've noticed is after the pregame meeting, they
Right.
do to a quick visual.
Okay. Well, good.
I just think maybe coming out of the locker room, it's not something that they're focused on, understandably so.
Yeah, that or they're used to doing it and they're used to getting away with it and they're willing to take their chance that guys won't pay attention, and or bother to worry about it. There could
Right.
be a lot of things at play there.
And when substitutes come in, that's something that I need to get better at, is paying attention to, do they all have the same color tights on as everybody's on the floor, and that kind of stuff before we bring them on the floor. That's just a
Right.
little bit extra focusing.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good teaching and learning point there. One thing I'll just add, and we can continue talking about these kinds of things, but just taking the question from the rules changes a little further and looking at the points of emphasis, I'm sort of looking here to the side to look at the rule book as we speak. But I would mention that, and this was in the points of emphasis this year regarding head coverings. I would just point out that if someone is wearing a head covering, they need to be able to demonstrate that they've gotten approval from our office to wear such, and that would be whether it's for a religious or for a medical reason. And as officials, you don't need to really worry yourself too much about what that process looks like or is, other than if you see somebody wearing something that's it's a head covering, one, or number two, it's something that's wider than 2 inches, so it's wider than the allowable size for a headband. Then that school, if it's legal, should be able to provide you um, correspondence from us that would say it's okay for that student athlete to be wearing that piece of equipment. Don't know how big of an issue that is, but just sort of looking through the points of emphasis, I thought this would be a chance for me to review that with folks.
I have not had that. We did have one player, student athlete, had the face mask that was molded to the face.
Okay.
We did not, as a crew, did not think that needed to come with any type of doctor's permission, as
No,
long as it was molded to the face.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. And yeah, and if it wasn't molded and you thought it was not a safety concern, then I think you could let that go as well.
Yeah.
But I think I'm talking specific to the head covering. So I would agree with
Sure.
what you said there, David. A few things that just to build on that our office wanted to also emphasize early in the season. One, we sort of talked about the importance of being legally equipped. Um, I would just say that that's really important. We think all the rules in the rule book are important. They're all equally important. There we go. We think they all need to be equally enforced. It does seem a little bit like we spend a disproportionate amount of time talking about these kinds of things. That's not a fault of the officials. It's not necessarily a fault of the coaches or the players. It's just, there's going to hopefully be a day sometime soon when we can worry more about play on the floor than what's being worn on the floor. But just know that being legally equipped is important to us, and we think that that needs to be enforced consistently throughout the season.
Very good.
Secondly, something that we've noticed at some of the games we've been at already this year, and maybe we've just been to games where this is happening and it's not really a widespread issue, but we would just maybe offer our observation that when officials are chewing gum while they're trying to officiate, it tends not to look very good. Maybe makes the official appear to be a little less credible, I guess would be a way I would describe it. We've seen a lot of gum chomping going on while people are trying to officiate, and it just doesn't look right to us. And so, we might encourage folks to try not to do that while they're officiating. And then finally, and we put this message out a week or so ago, and that is that now, at least on the boys' side, we've run our report on officials' availability and power ratings, things of that nature. And so, any changes now to availability for officials wanting to work on the boys' side of the tournament needs to be sent to my assistant Laura Hennings, and there's a message to that effect in the official center. If you log into your official center and look under the messages area, you'll be able to see that. I don't develop the IT programs, but we have very good programs that we use when it comes to assigning, but I didn't develop those. Our girls basketball administrator, Beth Sauser, didn't create those. And so I tell you that only because some of the programs, after we run our reports, then they don't continue to communicate with one another. And so once a report is run for any of our state tournaments, the changes that you make in the officials center after that report is run don't then automatically show up in any of the programs we would then use for assigning. So if somebody blocks out a date, for example, that happens to fall within the boys' postseason after today, for example, the only way our office will know about that as it relates to your assignment or your possible assignment is for you as an official to email our office. So if you can put that word out there for folks as you talk to them, have them look for that message, that would be great. And we'd appreciate that tremendously. Those were the three things that we wanted to just sort of highlight and emphasize. I don't know if, again, other people have questions, whether you want to, say them so everybody can hear or put them in the chat room. That's fine too. Really, our whole intention of making ourselves available was just to be available, to be available and answer any questions that somebody would have.
Kurt, I've
Hey,
noticed coaches' behavior once a bench warning has been issued, their behavior has not improved, but behavior has not warranted a technical uh, for their behavior. Have you all received any reports, indication in regards to something like that?
No, I haven't. I don't think that we have on the girls' side either. Just from a quick review of special reports, I would say that what we've been getting this year is fairly indicative of what we get every season, and I haven't noticed, really an increase or decrease in the number of reports we've gotten. Um, I guess if I guess if I was officiating and I gave a warning because of behavior and the behavior continued, I think it would warrant a technical foul. So I guess I'm not fully sure that if it didn't improve and didn't cease, and if the whatever continued, the only difference being the person was sitting down instead of standing,
Right.
I think you need to address that as such and say, okay, I've given you your warning. I tried, I tried to get you back in line here, coach, and you didn't get the message. So my only other recourse is to assess you a technical foul. That would definitely get somebody's attention. I think it would get mine. I know if I was coaching.
You would think so.
Well, I would just say what I always do. I would not be afraid to go there when you have to do so. We're going to support, we're going to support you for that. I guess I would say, once you've given that warning, I don't know that it's a continued negotiation at that point.
Right.
So, and I wouldn't try to make it that. I think sometimes we do that, and then we sort of lose the upper hand in some respects. So I would just say, if you got to do it, do it. I'm going to talk to one of the people here that's online, just a gentleman by the name of Tony. I'll just reference you by your first name, Tony, since you're the only Tony on the line right now. If you're trying to send me a message, I'm getting something, but I don't see it being a question or really a message. So maybe you were just working on something there, seeing if that feature worked. I would tell you, oh, here we go. There we go. And the question that we've got here is on a free throw. Are players allowed to enter the lane on the release or when it hits the rim? Yeah, I'll give you a rule reference here. Players other than the free thrower or others who are not lined up on the lane, the free thrower and other players who are lined up outside the lane, so we're talking about, behind the three-point arc, free throw line extended beyond that, those players have to wait for the ball to hit the rim. But players who are legally lined up on the free throw lane may enter the lane on the release of the ball. Yeah, and we see that, and I'll just type in here, Rule 9-1-3 really gets at what players in various spots on the floor can do in relation to the free throw. And there it is, so you can see it. Good question.
hey, Kurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's Clarence. Question on backcourt and
Okay.
your potential rule change. College has gone to a different rule with backcourt. So now if a ball is deflected, and there's no control, the team A can still grab the ball in the backcourt, even if it deflected off the foot of team A. So, for example,
Okay.
A1's dribbling the ball, B1 reaches in, slaps it away, goes off the foot of A1 into the backcourt. A1 goes to retrieve the ball, or any other player from A. In high school, that would be a backcourt violation. But in college now, they changed it this year so that either team can get the ball without a backcourt. Is high school considering that change? I think that would be a good rule change on high school.
Well, it's still a little early in the year to know much about what people around the country are thinking. For state office administrators, there's a mid-season meeting similar to this, and it's usually at that meeting, which is I think it's like the first full week in January. Looking at my calendar over there, sorry, the first full week in January, where we get together, like I said, with others in our role around the country, and then at that meeting, there's generally discussion about types of things people are seeing around the country and possible rule changes. So in your play, Clarence, we have player control, and then during an interrupted dribble.
So basically in high school, the last to touch, if team A
Right. Mm-hmm.
is the last to touch, they cannot get the ball in the backcourt. That would be a backcourt violation in high school, but not in college. In college, it's the last to possess.
Yeah, we'll just have to see where that takes us here. Do you see that often in games?
Well, it happens on a high school level quite often, and it's a very common sense rule change that I think has helped the college game. I think eventually it'll come down to the high school level as well.
I would support that idea. We seem nationally very interested in making the game as much like the college game as we can. I agree. So it wouldn't surprise me to see that sometime soon either.
Yep.
Hey, Kurt, this is Tony.
I'm here.
How strictly do you enforce the coach's box? Because with the emotions that are behind most coaches these days, they tend to come out of the box onto the floor, even if it's just a foot or two. How strictly do you enforce that rule?
I would never tell an official to ignore one of the rules here in the rule book. There we go again. So I would always say the rules are written to be enforced as they're written. At some point in what I'll call a boys or girls varsity basketball game, and I think by and large most games nowadays, most games are being officiated by 3-person crews, and I think the 5 most important people in making that game a success are the 2 coaches and the 3 officials. And I think there needs to be a level of maturity displayed by everybody. So I get that coaches are competitive. Officials are competitive people too. At some point, as adults and as leaders, we've got to be able to control, our emotions. So, I guess this year you've got the ability, if somebody was out of the box, you could warn them right away, and I would do that. But if their conduct at the point, even if it's on the first possession of the game, was unsporting, I would assess a technical foul and move the game on. But you do, like I said, you do have a warning this year, and you need to make it clear to coaches that, I mean, that's the rule, and that rule is no different than any other rule. And when you, as an official, fail to enforce it, you're providing a benefit to the team that's violating the rule when you don't enforce it. And I'm not sure that's fair to the other team when you allow somebody to violate a rule and not have a consequence for it. That's a bit of a long answer to a short question, Tony. Sorry about that. Sometimes I can do that, and I apologize.
No, but that does answer my question. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt.
I'm with you.
Hey, I just saw Vince Evans. I got a quick question for you. It may be kind of silly,
Okay.
but when we come on the court 15 minutes before the game time, you one, you two are on both ends of the court watching our players, making sure they're correct top to bottom. So do you think it would make sense that sometime halfway between that time, the two officials, you one and you two, could switch so they had an opportunity to view the other team as how they're warming, how they're playing? Does that make sense to you?
I understand your question, and it makes sense to me. It's just not something that's in our mechanics right now.
I understand.
What do you view as, just out of curiosity, what do you view as the possible advantage to that?
Well, the U1 is watching one team. They're warming up, they're checking everything, the uniform, everything. And U2 is watching other set of other team playing, see what their tendencies are, and how they're shooting, moving, that kind of, who the 3-point shooters are. And the other U1 can't see what U2 is seeing, so you really don't have the tendencies prior to the game, what they might or might not be doing. That was just a thought.
Okay.
I know it's probably not logical, but it's just something I was thinking about.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it would be a new kind of concept. I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know how much you as an official get from that.
True.
10, 12 minutes of, it's probably not even that, by the time you get on the floor, then you move into your coaches and captains meeting, and then you go back to your spot. You're probably doing some stretching. So I'm not trying to diminish the importance of that 10, 12 minutes. I just don't know how much you get out of it. And then to make a switch in the middle.
Yeah, some guys are talking about it. I wasn't really sure, but thanks for your input.
Okay.
Hey, Kurt?
Kurt,
Yeah.
this is Doug King. Can you hear me?
I can.
Go ahead.
So,
I'm
Kurt,
here.
this is Doug King, and one of the things that came up for my association was the top 15 list.
Okay.
And that people that have not worked boys games for a very long time, even after the reset, are still appearing on the top 15 list for boys basketball. And there was concern that the calculations or the database has some flaws to it. Are we sure that we have reliability in that entire top 15 database?
The calculations, say that again, Doug.
The association said that there are 2 or 3 members that haven't worked a boys basketball game in double-digit number of years, so like 10, 12, 15 years. And even after the top 15 reset, they're still showing up with a very high percentage on the top 15 list. And there's concern that maybe the calculations are incorrect or there's a flaw in the database.
Okay. I can investigate that. Excuse me. I don't compute those, but I can certainly talk to our IT staff. Of course, the hard part will be you're referencing a couple of officials, so I won't really have any way to really know. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you said to me. Doug King hasn't
I
worked
understand
a
that, and
game
I
in
don't.
10
I
years.
was not
Then
giving a hard name.
you weren't given a hard name. Got it.
I will get. I will give you. I will get you a hard name.
Okay. That's fine. I just think without having that kind of background, yeah, we won't know. We won't be able to go back and verify. Is it possible that the association's putting that person on the list with the knowledge that the person hasn't worked a game in 10 or 12 years?
I don't know that. I know they've retired from boys basketball.
So what you're hearing is somebody who's retired from boys
That's all I was
basketball.
told. I'm the messenger for the association.
Okay. Can't really help
Yes,
much
correct.
more than that right now. So is this and you're the messenger for the NOA?
Correct.
Okay. I can certainly plug
That's
that
correct.
into,
Yes.
yeah, I can plug that into our officials department, and maybe they can reach out to someone. Yeah, all of the top 15. I'm not trying to pass the buck. I don't do those computations. The whole reset on the top 15 list was decided by our officials department, so I don't have much more that I really know on that particular subject.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. When I look over here to my side, I've been making notes for things to follow up on the rest of the week, so that's all I've been doing.
Hey, Kurt,
Yep, I'm here.
do you feel that the Illinois is going trying to get closer to the college rules, whether it be mechanics, that kind of stuff?
It's
And
certain. Yes, it feels to me like that's the way the National Rules Committee is moving the high school basketball game, making it more and more like college every year.
okay, I got on late, so this question maybe the answer is, if it is, I apologize, but knowing that the block charge is probably one of the toughest calls we can make, bar any of them out there. Are they looking at putting the horseshoe in the high school like they do in college?
Haven't heard of that.
Easier, but
Yeah, haven't heard of that yet. Haven't heard of that yet, but it won't surprise me if we do.
okay, we'll make it a little bit easier to adjudicate that block charge in the hole there. So, okay,
Right.
thanks.
The only thing when you talk about changes like that, I mean, the coach's box was an easier fix.
Sure.
Something like that would be surprisingly more difficult at the high school level because you're talking about marking up the floor, and there's a cost involved with that.
Right.
But and while it would seem easy that somebody could put down some floor tape that would, stick to the ground or whatever and be sufficient, that the things that we think should be easy sometimes aren't. And so, but it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if someday we have the horseshoe in high school basketball.
Thanks, Kurt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just surprised that somebody would say it's easier to officiate with the restricted area. Most people find it more difficult. It's a big adjustment.
Yeah, I don't dispute that either. I base my comments simply on the things I hear from people around the country, and there's a growing number of folks who just believe that the high school game should look as much like the college game as it can, whether that means adding a shot clock or something like the restricted area. There's a growing number of people that think that high school basketball should be nothing more than a training ground for collegiate basketball players. And so that's why we see some of these changes and proposals coming out year after year after year.
Just
For
the
example, where I
cost
once
of,
thought that,
just the cost of
Say that
implementing them is difficult. You can't expect all the schools to have a shot clock, for example.
well, you can't, but and there was a day when I thought that would never carry the day, but
Yep.
yeah, I think it will. It almost, it was very close to being implemented this year. It was very close. And so that tells me that it's probably going to happen someday. Now, whether that will be left up to each state to determine, and that's sort of what my instincts tell me, when it does happen, it'll be left up to each state to determine the particulars for their state, the amount of, how long the shot clock, that period will be in which to get off a shot, what levels it'll be used at, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But I fully expect that and I would expect in the very short term, within the next 3 to 5 years. I would say if we don't have it in 5 years, I'd be really surprised. And like I said, there was a day when I thought we would never have it in high school.
Yep. Another thing I heard, possibly, I don't know, maybe you could dispel the rumor. Is there any possibility of having an electronic device at the scorer's table with the roster and putting the score right into a computer at the table that may be connected centrally so people can see the scores or statistics? Somebody mentioned something like that.
Sort of like in real time at a game.
Right.
Yeah, again, I would never say never. If that device is out there, and maybe it is, maybe somebody like Max Preps has some kind of scoring feature where that can be, inputted at the table. People can get it in real time on their devices while the game's going on. It would certainly seem like we're probably moving in that kind of direction with technology, just in general.
Right. Nice idea.
Great idea.
If teams' rosters were all available centrally and the scorekeeper could just get the roster downloaded. The only problem is having a plan B, contingency plan, if there's any problems with that system.
Right. Well, and I would tell you, as much as we've tried to transition our schools into using Max Preps, that hasn't been the easiest transition. And some places have been really great at adopting what we've wanted them to do. Others have been a little slower to the table. That would probably just present, in some cases and in some places, some challenges. It would just be something that had to be well thought out. But I could certainly see a day coming when that kind of technology is utilized. Well, I appreciate, guys. It's 7:45, and I had intended this to be a 45-minute conversation, and so we met our goal. So good for all of us. We held one of these kinds of meetings in November. We've done one now in December. My expectation is we'll probably do another one or two, whether it's likely in January, another one in February. I think it's a good opportunity for us to at least make ourselves available to a broader audience. And so that was really my hope. But I would tell you, at any point in time, if you have questions or want to share thoughts or observations, you can always reach out to us here at the IHSA office. We'll do our best to be responsive to you. We appreciate all your efforts. We know that officiating is not easy, and it's oftentimes a thankless kind of task that you take on, but we know that without your help and your service, we wouldn't be able to help all the hundreds of thousands of young people that we do in our state every year. So have a great rest of the season. Have a wonderful holiday, and thanks again for taking time out to visit with me tonight.
Thanks,
Thank
Kurt.
you.